Welcome to CPG Brand Builders. I'm Braden Douglas, and today we're going to learn how do you get the most out of an agency relationship? How do you create RFPs? How do you have a budget discussion? How do you have the hard conversation with an agency to make sure you're getting the best work? You're not overpaying, but you're also making sure you're getting great service. And then how do you even end it? So, with me today is Josh Cairns. Josh, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh man, it's awesome having you. We get to work together, but yet you're one of the best group account directors overseeing all client services right now. Give us a quick background. How did you get into it? How long you've been in the agency world?
Yeah, nearly 20 years. We came out of college in 2008, so not the ideal year to graduate. And I always loved marketing. I love the agency world, but I was like, man, it's going to be tough to find a role. But I used my relationship skills and was blessed to have a role early on. And I just made the most of that first role. I grew up in an experiential agency in Toronto, and I got to work with a lot of great brands during that time, Microsoft and Ford and Rogers, and just an incredible opportunity to experience the marketing and agency world from that lens. And I had the opportunity to then jump in and join crew marketing and work alongside some incredible people on a smaller agency level, but really kind of sink my teeth in and led an office, became a partner, and now oversee the VP. I'm the VP of Client Services there. So a lot of relationship building, always on the agency side. So that's my blood through and through.
Yeah. All right. So then, as a marketer, we come to a point where you want to find a new agency. You got a project, or something's happening. You want to find somebody, so you create an RFP, and you see these all the time from lots of different organizations and companies. What what should a marketer put into an RFP? And what do you then look at as an agency to say, do we want to respond to this?
Yeah, sure. So you first do a scan and say, what industry are they in? What business do they run? And is this an industry that we add value to, that we know well? Do our services align? Do our markets align? So, right there, you kind of start to assess, is there a fit? Then, once you kind of take a look at that, you scan the ask. What is the ask of the RFP? Again, that's another layer of, do our services align? Do our markets align? I go to the ask to the budget. Is the ask and the budget, at a very quick glance, do they make sense? When an RFP doesn't have a budget, there's warning bells on that, because then we're into guesstimating, where do we think we should land. So
So just on this one, right? So I'm a marketer.
sure.
You're putting an RFP together,
Hmm.
and there's this fear, sometimes this budget, where you're like, oh, I don't want to put a budget because
Are they going to use it all and charge me too much, or is it going to be
right,
too small? Do
right,
I know
like,
how much this costs with an agency?
and
Sure.
sometimes you don't even know how much you should put in there. So is it better to put a range? Is it better to put a specific number, but then you say, well, there could be room,
Yeah.
like, or do you just leave it blank and then you see who responds to the RFP? What is that? How should a marketer do that?
Yeah, so I think a budget range is helpful, because then you can start to say, hey, here's what we're looking for. Here's a range, and here's the anticipated, agency services and media. When you don't break it down, you leave it really wide open, I think, from your side of the table to say, we might get something at the really low end. We might get something that blows our budget out of the water. And so the best agency might blow the budget and you might discount them, when really, in fact, you can start to anchor and say, the responses I want need to live in and around this realm. And I think as a marketer, your responsibility is to say, what can I really spend on an agency? And if you can't give clear guidance on that, or you're not sure, consult with an agency. It's not wrong to call up a friend or network with an agency and say, hey, I'm putting an RFP together. I've never done this, or I'm trying to figure out what a realistic range should be. Here's what my expectations are. Am I on the right track? And we've actually consulted with numerous clients in that process to help anchor the RFP and say, this is kind of how you should lean into it. Gives them the confidence. And then as the agency, you get that an RFP that looks like that, and you say, yeah, the expectations are clear, they're realistic. We're going to respond to this.
Right. Okay. And then when do you when did this idea of spec work, right? Everybody, the agency world, but there's a risk of when you get pitches
Hmm.
because you want to see thinking as like a marketer. You don't, it's like who's going to bring the thinking, or because if it's just the credentials, then you're kind of like, yeah, I already know. I see it on your website. I kind of know what you've done.
Yeah.
So what's the line between I want spec creative done and this whole built out versus I need to see your thinking for my brand to help me understand it. Like how
Yeah.
much should a marketer ask for and be okay with asking about?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of different viewpoints on this. I'll give you mine. I'm not a huge fan of spec creative. We have done it, but I think it actually does devalue and commoditize the industry to a degree. So the challenge is like if I went into your product or I went into your service and I said, "Hey, I want you to, create 5 different flavors for me, and then I'll decide if I want to go with you. But I'm looking at 15 other guys too. Would you do it?" And so the
You'd
difference
be
is,
surprised. I actually
yeah,
think they would.
yeah, they might actually do it.
Um,
They might actually do it. And so there is a cost to doing business, but I think where we really lean into is start to say, Patrick Lencioni writes a great book on this called Getting Naked. Not what you think. Don't Google it. Make sure you add his name in there. But he talks about giving it away for free. And what he's saying is start consulting. And I think great agency partners start thinking and giving the strategy away for free. Not the whole strategy, but I want to see the thinking. I want to say, hey, are you taking me down a path? And you can use in market work, you can use other examples of, hey, I think you're here. I think we can take you here, like this to this. And that kind of thinking, I think, shows a client in an RFP what they're hoping for, and then you can back it up with the work that you have done. We did it for this and this and this in your industry. That's the credential that says, I don't want to work with an agency usually for the first time. Are you learning my industry? Is this the first time you've got a really great strategy, but you've never done it before? Nobody really wants to be that test pilot. So I think for us, it's always about anchoring, and we have done it before.
right. And then, so then you're a marketer, you see this, you have 3 agencies that pitch,
Hmm.
right? That actually say, hey, we want your business. How should a marketer feel like this is a good fit agency?
It's kind of like a relationship. It's not like a relationship. It is a relationship. So if you think about somebody you're looking to date, you kind of interview them, and that first date, and you take them out and you say, "Hey, is this going to work? Like, are we compatible?" And there's kind of different feelings around that. So when you first show up to them, like, are they interested? Have they thought about it? Did they come prepared? Who's on the call? Did they put the most junior person on the call and that person's never done this before? Are there people on the call that have kind of been thinking about it? They've got some things that they want to share in a viewpoint that you're like, wow, okay, they really get it. So you're really kind of interviewing in almost like a early date. And so as you're assessing agency, you're also assessing the people. And then the credibility, like dig in and ask about the agency. What's the structure? What departments do you have? Where do you excel? Where do you think you could help us most? Where do you think that you'd have gaps in our ask and helping us? I think honesty, transparency, and openness is a devalued thing in the relationship assessment. I think we're always scared to ask the real questions. But for me, I like to put the chips on the table and ask the dumb questions. And that's another thing that Patrick Lencioni talks about in the book is like missed expectations come from assumptions. Ask dumb questions. It's okay early on, and actually state it. Hey, I'm about to ask some dumb. I'm going to ask you some of the simple questions, or maybe seemingly dumb, but I really just want to understand how we're going to best serve you. So X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I think in my experience, most people they want to project a bigger, better, more put together image than what they are because they think that might give them better service, more respect, whatever it might be.
Mm.
But actually, in hindsight, actually, what it does usually lead to is missed expectations. Nobody really knows what you really need and what you really want. And I think I think transparency is key.
Yeah.
Now, as a marketer, the hard part though is that let's say I'm working on a project. It's a design project. Hey, I need a new packaging design done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go to an agency and say, hey, can you do this packaging design for
Crew.
me?
You'd go to crew.
You
Yeah.
go to crew,
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
And then they're saying, hey, I want to get this done. What the question they say is, well, I know you can get it done, but how much is this? And then, the agency will say, well, how much is your budget? And as a marketer, I hate that question because I'm always like, well, I don't really know. So how do you navigate that? How would you navigate that situation where I'm like, I kind of have a budget, but it's a bit of a range because I don't know exactly. I don't want to give you a high one because if I go too high, then you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's how much it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. But if I go too low, you might be like, oh, it's not worth our time, whatever it is. But how do you have that conversation?
So there's a couple ways I approach this, and it depends on what we're talking about. But I'll use your packaging example. I'll ask more questions. Okay, so I've already done some research. I've taken a look at who you are. So then I'll say, hey, it looks like you kind of have the structure here. We're looking to do a portfolio packaging solution. You've got 3 main SKUs and you've got 4 SKUs under each of those kind of hero SKUs. So we're talking about 12, to 15 SKUs total. Yeah, okay, great. So I know right away, and we've done this before many times, that I can do some quick math on that. So I would come in with probably an understanding. I would say, to do at the front end, it's going to be about X to Y. Now I'd want to build a budget on that, but here's a range. And what I'm trying to do is, one, give you an opportunity to react to that. And I'm not trying to like blow you out of the water. I'm not marking it up. I'm saying it could be X, could be to Y, because there's some variables in that range. But on the flip side, then it gives you an anchor to say, oh, okay, we're dealing with this. But and people are always shy to negotiate or share numbers first. But for me, it's like we want to consult, we want to help. So it's our job to be able to lead.
Right. And I think when it comes to pricing, knowing the process, like what do you really need the outcome? Here's the process to get there. Is this what you would want?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, then we see, well, here's how much time that's going to take to do that. And it could, if we go a little bit faster, because maybe faster approvals and stuff, it could be $5,000, but maybe it could go up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that?
That's right.
Right. And so having those ranges, I would say you would be good with that. You think that having that range conversation early with
I always
clients,
try and give a range because I think it's like what I want you to say on the other side is yes or no, because it gives us clarity. If you're a no, that's okay. We've either missed the range or you just don't have the budget. At least we have clarity, and I'm not burning time putting together a proposal. If I say, hey, let me take that away and think about it, I've done myself a disservice and you a disservice. I haven't given you any clarity to say, hey, yeah, that budget could work. Can you go put some work into that? And then I come back, and I show you the proposal, and you're like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Or this is a joke. Like, you guys, you haven't thought through this. And so, for me, I'm like, I'm trying to get as much alignment in those first conversations as possible.
You know what I find is, as a marketer, you're kind of thinking about different ideas.
Yeah.
You're a little bit afraid, though, to talk to your agency about it, just to even find out costs sometimes, because you're like, oh, they're going to now think it's a project coming in or whatever is going to happen. But how should a client, like, should they be afraid to just call you up and just be, hey, Josh, I'm thinking about this. What are your like cost range ish? Like, how would that look? Like, is that a good idea? Is it not a good idea?
I think it's like any relationship. Like, hey, we don't want to talk about the budget, because if we have to look at the budget, then we're gonna really know where we overspent or how are we doing and our credit card's okay. Like, think about it in your personal life. I think it transcends into a work relationship. It's like we have to have open dialogue. A good relationship is like, hey, let's be willing to bring things to the table. Let's trust one another. Little moments. And so I do understand, like, you bring it to the agency, what are they going to hit me with? And it's like, well, you got to learn to trust your agency. And if you don't trust your agency, do you have the right agency at the table? If you think that they're going to go away and they're just going to hose you, then you might need to look for a new agency. And maybe that's a key thing for you. But you got to trust that the agency wants to do what's best to grow your business. As we're in the same business as you are. The difference is we've got the creative capabilities that you desire. You got the marketing capabilities to think through some of these opportunities. We got to work together. I can't do it without you, and you can't do it without me. So we got to stop treating each other like vendors and more like partners. Open dialogue. Tell me what's working. Tell me when I totally missed, and let's come back to the table and figure it out together.
Right. And there could be a way to say, hey, listen, like, I don't have a lot of money for this kind of project. I only have X. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Right. And then, like,
Yeah, this isn't the home run swing. We're not doing the Super Bowl ad for this one.
right. Can you do it? Like, can we do it? How could we make that work?
Totally.
And then you just have those conversations.
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned something about how do you know when it's the right time to leave an agency relationship?
Well, I was on a call this week or last week, sorry, and I think it was the realization that the agency and what our needs are, they're not able to service our needs. So one, you've outgrown the capabilities of the agency, and they're trying to hold on, and so that's okay. Maybe the agency just takes a part of the scope, and you need to look for a complementary agency for additional scope. Two, results. Are you getting the results that you need from the agency? And then three, are we working on the relationship? If the work, we always say like great character, great relationships are core to great business, but it's got to be met with execution, and that creates the wow. So, hey, if we have a great relationship, but I'm not executing for you, you're not going to be happy. If we have a bad relationship and we're executing through the roof, there could still be some sandpaper there. So the execution and relationships have to go together. We need to see results. It's not going to be a home run every time, but we need to see results. We need to be moving in the right direction, and the relationship needs to feel like we're for each other and we're trying to get the brand growth top of mind with consumers.
Yeah. And, and I always really believe that even an employee, if an employee is not performing, you don't just fire them right away.
Right.
You talk to them, you give them an opportunity to understand where they're underperforming, what they need to do to be able to improve, give them an opportunity and really believe in them that they can turn it around. Mm-hmm. And if they still don't come to the table and you part ways, then at least everybody's like, you know what? We gave it a great shot. It was clear, professional, and it's great. And I think it's the same applies to agencies from that, right? Don't you think?
Absolutely. Let's have conversations. Let's discuss performance. Let's discuss where it's going well and where it's not, not super hot, so that we can at least have it all on the table and there's an opportunity to do it even better.
Totally. Now, what are some things that drive you crazy about clients? Like, how can a client be a good client for an agency?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a mix. There's a lot of there's a lot of different opportunities at this one. I think what can happen is you can fall in the trap of the noisiest and loudest voice wins. So you can fall into a bad cycle of somebody who comes in with last minute, got to get it done, hammer you, and they complain about pricing, and they're just always trying to kind of like cut the agency down. It becomes toxic, right? Like, and so you're not excited about the work, so you're not getting the best work out of the agency, and you're not partnering. You're just kind of like a beckoning. So it doesn't lead to the best work, and I think that's what's missed. So that's probably an avoidance of a key conversation of how do we set really good expectations and have good plans in place. I think on the other side too is there's not a lot of communication. So maybe the agency's not communicating, or they're holding back and they're not kind of coming forward, and you're kind of like, I want more, and we've got missed expectations on that side. So I think you gotta kind of really, to get a good relationship, is like both parties got to put the work in, and you got to be willing to attack the things that are harder to talk about. You can't just skate on the surface level. And I think that in any good business relationship, if you think about it like a partnership, we want this to work, and both parties come to the table like that, it's gonna have a way better chance of succeeding than if one party's the client and one's the vendor.
Right. Yeah, totally. Like you mentioned kind of this grinding. Like, I've met marketers who are like, oh, I'm always super hard on my agency or whatever it is, and it's like this badge of honor. And I always think I'm like, guys, an agency is full of creative people who love to do creative work.
That's right.
And if you make it fun and if you make it enjoyable, if you get them to fall in love with your brand, they will produce ideas and awesome work and new things like always. But if you grind them down and you make it feel like I'm a hard ass and I'm gonna get you, like I'm telling you, you're like you be shut down the creative side so fast, and then it becomes a transaction. And I think you get kind of, well, I'll just give them the ideas that I know they're going to approve
Mm-hmm.
because it's such a pain, and I don't like it. And I think
You
it's
don't
real.
get it's not that you don't get the best work. It's that it's hard to get up, and so we got to do our job. Our job is to work through those things, and you don't always get to choose those perfect relationships, but it is a reminder to agencies too. You can fire the client, and you don't have to accept the work, and you can set expectations. And I think that that's the coming to the table and saying treating people is like par for the course. Treating people well is par for the course. And so it comes down to the values of the agency, where you're at. But I think that's why our values are character, relationships. We got to have great character people, great relationships. We got to execute, and let's create wow together.
Yeah, it's true. That's really good. What would you say key advice for marketers right now
Mm-hmm.
who are working with an agency and they need to have a hard conversation? How should they approach that? Who should they talk to about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good material on this. Crucial Conversations is a great book around this, and we actually used to study it on the agency side, and we had workshops when I first started my career, how to have crucial conversations. And so this is just something that you got to do in business no matter where you are. So to approach an agency, say, hey guys, listen, I want to have a chat about our scope, or I want to have a chat about the work and where we're at.
And
And
who should they have that with?
they should have that with the most senior relationship person. So in my case, it's, I'm the VP of Client Services. You could reach out to me directly. I'd be more than happy at all times to have those conversations. And we're proactive in reaching out to our clients to check in and see how things are going on a relationship side, not just the work side, because you can glean different insights. But have that proactive discussion, because it's amazing what can be uncovered when awareness is brought forward. And sometimes, the agency's not even aware, like, where your expectations were. And so, wow, we gotta cover that gap. And/or we missed on the work. The brief was, we wrote a poor brief. The creative didn't hit. Okay, you're not happy. Let's do our best and figure out how we're going to fix this together. And I think when you address it in a way that's like, hey, we want to be partners in this. We're not thrilled with where we're at, but here's how I think we can get to a better place. I think that goes from like we're going to hit you down and see how you can perform to let's figure out how we can do this together. And if it doesn't get better, maybe it's not the right relationship, but at least you came to the table in a partnership to try and make it the best that it could be.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, marketers, what I hope within our brand builders community is that I want you to become an amazing client for any agency that you use. That your expectations are clear. You set good timelines and budgets. You're communicative. When things go wrong, you are working with them on it to fix it because it's so important. And if you want to get the best out of an agency, that relationship, that transparency is absolutely key. Josh, thank you so much for being here. I love the insight. Always a pleasure chatting.
Yeah, it was so good, and appreciate y'all. The marketers are what make us tick. So love what we do. Appreciate the insights you guys bring.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have an awesome day. We'll see you next time.